Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to go over the 10 cards that everybody wants from Scarlet and Violet. Now, when it comes to chase cards and investing in Pokemon card sets, and I guess the longevity or the performance of the sealed product over time, particularly if we're looking at the booster box, the chase card plays a massive impact. It really does. If we look at it throughout Sword and Shield, and then we rewind further back to Sun and Moon and XY, the best performing booster boxes have the rarest cards or the most expensive cards. Now, there are outliers to this, of course. Like if we look at sets like XY Base, which was really, really low printed and has become extremely rare as a collectible sealed item in itself, that, of course, is going to have an impact and gain value. But I suppose the hard and fast rule really is, with a couple of exceptions, that if a set has better chase cards inside it, it's going to perform better. So when we're looking at Scarlet and Violet sets to invest in, particularly booster boxes, it makes sense at the moment to look at sets that have, the best top 10 chase cards in terms of total value and the strongest hits that people really want. So what are the 10 that people really want? And I think this all should be based on value. So let's jump straight into it. Number 10 on the list is from Temporal Forces and is Iron Crown. It is currently going for $63. I've mentioned a few times that I quite like Temporal Forces. I think it's a pretty solid set. Could it have done better? Yeah, I've done a whole video on Temporal Forces, so if you rewind back, you can have a look at it. It's probably a solid sort of B, maybe B plus base set for me. It's not too bad a set, and some of the chase cards inside it are actually pretty strong, and the artwork is phenomenal, and also pull rates seem to have really changed on Temporal Forces. Hitting those big special illustration rares is almost the same stage as hitting some of the alternate art Pokemon cards from Sword and Shield era. So the tiered pull rate from Temporal Forces was really nice. Now, number 9 on the list is Paldea Evolved Iono. Paldea Evolved, again, I'll get in trouble for the way I say Paldea. It's the Aussie accent. Paldea Evolved is one of those sets that it's just almost getting better so far with age. And who knows, like it could get another reprint. And speaking of reprints, while we're on that topic, and particularly booster box reprints, I'm under no illusion that, Scarlet and Violet is extremely likely to be printed less than Sword and Shield. We all know demand for a lot of industries in the world has dropped off. I'm in the car industry. Demand for cars, as in new car purchases, has dropped off. It's a fact. It's gotten harder to sell them, and every retailer's probably feeling the pinch. If you're watching this and maybe you own a retail store, I'm sure you're feeling it a little bit harder to sell your stock and sell your product at the moment. And the Pokemon company is no different. We have come out of a massive, massive boom. It's still strong. I'm not saying it's weak. It's not at all. It's still super, super strong. I just think that some of these Scarlet and Violet sets, it's very likely that some of them don't cop a booster box reprint. And if that's the case, we could see some prices really starting to go up in price relatively quickly compared to what we saw in Sword and Shield. Number 8 on the list is Twilight Masquerade's Perrin. This is going for $76. Twilight Masquerade actually has 3 cards inside the top 10. It's arguably the best set so far from Scarlet and Violet. It's probably overtaken Paldea Evolved. And I think the reason being is the number 1 chase card, which we'll get to in this video in a minute. The big question is how many of these cards can hold on though? Because quite often, obviously, sets and singles come out of the gate pretty hot because it's the newest thing, it's the in thing. And if there's not a set to eclipse it, like Shrouded Fable has not eclipsed Twilight Masquerade. People are still hunting and wanting Twilight Masquerade, particularly that Greninja, of course, and they're leaving Shrouded Fable on the shelves. So unless another set comes along to eclipse Twilight Masquerade, there's probably still going to be some more demand for it, which is going to keep prices relatively high. Number 7 on the list, another Temporal Forces card, the number 1 hit from Temporal Forces, which is Raging Bolt EX at $82. It's funny, isn't it? We're yet to actually see, we're into number 7 on the list, we're yet to see a card above $100 yet from Scarlet and Violet era. If we did the same thing from Sword and Shield, the prices would be extremely, extremely different. Number 6 on the list, again, also under $100, is the Paldean Fates Mew. Of course, termed the Bubble Mew. This is a really, really good looking card. I like the artwork on this card. I think it's going to go down as a classic. Mew is one of the fan favorite Pokemon, and I think this card is going to age really well. and hold its value really well. Is it going to go up? I don't know. Like I think it's a pretty fair price. It's reached some sort of equilibrium there from Paldea and Fates. So I think it's probably likely going to stay there for some time. Another one from Twilight Masquerade, number 5 on the list, is Carmine at $94. This is a really, really good looking card. Waifu cards can really, really hold up a set. We've seen it in old school Sun and Moon sets, which had, I suppose, it's not the introduction of waifu cards, but it's probably where they really gain some strength. You know, a set like Ultra Prism, which is held up by that Lily plus other waifu cards. There's no real chase cards when it comes to Pokemon, but there's so many waifus that just hold up that set. So don't discredit the power of a trainer card to really boost the value of a booster box long term, because Ultra Prism booster boxes cost a lot of money at the moment. What are we up to? Number 4, the first card above $100, which is the Paldean Fates Charizard at $110. Now, this card, in case you're wondering why this holds so much value over Obsidian Flames Charizard, is a couple of reasons. One, I think the artwork. I think it's a nicer looking chase card than the one from Obsidian Flames. And 2, the pull rates. This is a harder card to pull than what Obsidian Flames Charizard is. I called Obsidian Flames Charizard like 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Whenever the set came out, I said that'll be a $40 chase card. And what is it now? It's a $40 chase card. Number 3 on the list, I love this card, Paldea Evolved Magikarp at $115. And I'll mention it again, in case you're viewing this and you haven't seen it yet, check out the top of the card because there's actually a Gyarados chilling in there. And this is actually not even a special illustration rare. It's just an illustration rare. It's a shame this card wasn't a special illustration rare. It would be really cool if it gained some texture to the card, but I think it's a beautiful card and it really bolsters up Paldea Evolved's chances. It's also a very, very difficult card to grade a 10. You know, that's obviously all to do with print quality, but it really bolsters the ratio of a non-graded card or non-graded version of Magikarp into a PSA 10 or, you know, a Beckett 10. The gain you get, the percentage gain you get, it's really worth the risk of trying to grade it as a 10, because if you get a 10, it really, really bolsters the value of it. Number 2 on the list, we've got 2 to go. It is none other than 151's Charizard. This is so far the most expensive Charizard from Scarlet and Violet when we talk about chase cards. It's $124 US. It's a very small Charizard, isn't it? If you actually look at the artwork, Charizard makes up such a small amount of the picture compared to, say, Obsidian Flames Charizard and Paldean Fates Charizard. But it's a stellar set, 151. It brought so many people back into the hobby. And this Charizard just seems to be going from, I wouldn't say strength to strength, but it seems to be remaining relatively stable at the price point that it's at. I don't think this is ever going to be an under $100 card. I think it's going to stay where it is for some time, and perhaps it could do something similar to what the alternate art Charizard from Brilliant Stars does. I think it will take a little jump, maybe a year or two down the track, particularly once we start selling out of 151 and that, it's almost out of that reprint window, or we can almost confirm there's no more reprints coming. And number 1 on the list, this should be no surprise because this card has gone gangbusters. This card has bucked the trend to what normally happens with a chase card from a main set, and that is none other than Twilight Masquerade's Greninja at $292. This card, when it first came out, it's gone up in value quite drastically. At $292, this is like pushing sort of Giratina prices from Lost Origin when that card came out. And there's people that talk about the similarities a little bit with the artwork, as in the style's not the same, but, that mashup of colours on the card, and I can sort of see somewhat of a resemblance. But, as a result, demand is driving this card. It is all demand that's driving the price. People want it, love it or hate it. People do still want it. It's going gangbusters in price. It's selling heaps. It's the most popular Scarlet and Violet card from what I can see on the internet at the moment on eBay. PSA 10 copies are going for really big money. The pull rates aren't easy to get it. It's not an easy card to chase down. So it probably deserves that price. I actually really like it. It's probably, I've said it before, it's my second favourite special illustration rare from the whole Scarlet and Violet era. So there you go. There is the 10 cards that everyone wants from Scarlet and Violet. Now, before we conclude on the video, if we put the investing hat on and think about, what impact will this have or can this have on my investments in sealed products? And the answer is pretty simple. Look at the top 5 chase card prices. Look at the top 10 chase card prices from a set. Look at the biggest chase card from a set. And arguably, the data says at the moment that you should be investing in Twilight Masquerade and then you should be investing in Paldea Evolve in booster boxes. And that about sums it up from the 10 cards that everyone wants. Demand will drive those box prices up as people hunt for those cards. I'm Michael, this is Poke Oz, and I'll catch everyone next time.